Okay, let's dive into something truly powerful. The idea that the reality we experience is deeply connected to our inner world, imagination and desire.
Yeah, it's more than just wishful thinking. It's understanding this sort of fundamental link between what we envision inside and what we actually live through.
And what's really interesting is how uh, different thinkers seem to land on the same core idea.
Right. Our sources today, they really converge on this. We're looking at Neville Goddard's Awakened Imagination, Florence Scovel Shinn's The Game of Life, and Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Exactly. And the goal for this deep dive really is to pull out the practical techniques, things you can actually use.
Yeah, give you concrete steps, actionable things you can start applying right away to, well, bring your desires into reality without getting bogged down in just theory.
Okay, so let's kick things off with Neville Goddard. His big idea is the primacy of imagination,
He basically says imagination isn't just some side activity. He calls it the real and eternal world.
meaning the physical world is
Yes.
a shadow of it?
In essence, yeah, a reflection of that inner imaginative place. It's a pretty radical thought when you first hear it.
Definitely. And he talks about awakened imagination. What does he mean by that?
It's about consciously directing this imaginative power,
Right.
recognizing it as the engine driving your experience. He famously said, "To imagine a thing is to make it so."
So it's active. You're creating, not just hoping.
Precisely. And what's interesting is how he challenges our usual limits. We often think, well, my imagination has to match what's real now.
Right. Like, I can't imagine being wealthy if my bank account says otherwise.
But Goddard says, no, your inner vision doesn't need to conform. Just because it isn't physically here yet doesn't mean you can't imagine it into existence.
Which leads to that really practical technique he pushes, thinking from the end.
Ah, yes. That's crucial. It's not just thinking about what you want.
It's immersing yourself in the feeling of it already being done, like
Yeah.
actually feeling the satisfaction of having the new job, not just wishing for it.
Exactly. His own example was wanting to go to Barbados. He didn't focus on the how, the money, the ticket.
He focused on the feeling.
Yeah, he imagined being in Barbados, feeling the sun, seeing the sights, but viewing the world from that state of already being there. The how sorts itself out later, he argued.
So it's a mental shift from
Yes.
wanting to having.
Right. And Goddard calls this investment, assuming the feeling is like investing your mental energy in that reality you want.
As opposed to spending it on worrying or thinking about the lack.
Exactly. And another really powerful technique from him connects to sleep.
Oh, right. Falling asleep in the feeling.
Yes, he believed that state just before sleep, that drowsy state, makes the subconscious mind incredibly receptive.
So you saturate your mind with the feeling of the wish fulfilled right then.
That's the idea. It's like impressing that reality onto your subconscious just as you drift off. We said it thickens fancy into fact.
Interesting phrase. Okay, so imagination, feeling. What about our thoughts?
Yeah.
The constant chatter.
Huge emphasis on that, too. Our inner speech. He says, life is the union of word and mind.
Meaning our internal conversations are literally shaping our world.
That's his position. Think about it. A negative inner monologue drags you down,
Yeah.
right? He takes it further. It's not just a reflection. It's actively creating.
So to change your life, you have to change your inner talking.
You have to consciously align those inner conversations with what you desire, because he points out if your desire and your dominant inner speech clash,
Inner speech wins.
inner speech wins. That undercurrent of doubt or negativity, that's what tends to manifest, even if you really want something else.
So it demands real intentionality. You have to choose your thoughts.
Consciously choose thoughts that, as he puts it, bless and give good reports. Feed your mind the good stuff. He even references scripture, like Philippians 4.8, focus on what's true, noble, lovely.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about this revision technique? That sounds really intriguing.
It is. It's maybe one of his most directly actionable tools. He suggests you mentally replay events of the day.
But replay them how you wish they had happened.
Exactly. If you had a bad meeting or got disappointing news, you don't just dwell on it. In your imagination, you rewrite it.
And he believed this actually changes things.
He claimed every revision is a victory over oneself and that it genuinely impacts the future. It's like creating a new mental past that influences the present and future.
Wow. He gave an example, didn't he? About mail.
Yeah, getting upsetting mail. He wouldn't just accept it. He'd mentally rewrite the letter to say what he wanted it to say. Then he'd reread his revised version in his mind, feeling the relief or joy.
That takes discipline.
It does. And he had another story about injuring his foot and having a sort of frustrating encounter with someone around the same time.
What did he revise?
He couldn't immediately change the foot pain, but he mentally revised the encounter, imagined it being pleasant instead of tense.
Mm.
He said by the next morning his foot was healed. He strongly implied a link between revising that mental event and the physical healing.
Okay, that's quite something. So this ties into living in the end.
Yes, we talked about thinking from the end. Living in the end is making that feeling your default state, your habitual mental home almost.
So it's not just a quick visualization session.
No, it's an ongoing immersion, consistently returning to that feeling of it is done until it feels more real than your current circumstances. He called this sustained practice creative magic.
Reprogramming your consciousness, essentially.
That's a good way to put it. And his belief was that everything you desire already exists in imagination. It's waiting for you to match its frequency, through your belief and feeling.
Okay, let's bring in Florence Scovel Shinn. How does her perspective connect or differ?
Shinn also talks about impressing the subconscious mind. She sees it as this immense power, but without direction on its own.
So it just carries out whatever it's fed.
Pretty much. Whatever is deeply felt or clearly imagined. She gives that quite stark example of the woman who played widow as a child.
Oh yeah, constantly dressing up in black, acting it out.
And that intense, repeated, imaginative act seemed to imprint deeply, and sadly, it manifested later in life when her husband passed away. It really highlights the power of those deep images.
That's a sobering thought. But she also talks about a higher mind.
Yes, the superconscious mind, or the God mind within. This, she says, holds the divine design for each person.
The perfect potential.
Kind of like that. It often flashes into our conscious mind as an idea that feels maybe too good to be true, an unattainable ideal. But Shinn says, no, that's your actual potential trying to get through.
So how do we access that or bring it about?
She emphasizes desire, faith, and crucially, the spoken word.
Yeah.
Like the biblical idea, ask and it shall be given you. You have to claim it.
With words, like affirmations.
Yes, affirmations are big for Shinn, but also this idea of the law of substitution, consciously replacing a negative thought or fear with its positive opposite, a mental switch.
And she really believed spoken words have power.
Absolutely. She said words create laws for ourselves. Her example of the person who always missed the train versus the one who always caught it.
Their reality matched their declarations.
Exactly. It shows how self-fulfilling our consistent statements can be. For Shinn, the main roadblocks are doubt and fear. Fear, she called inverted faith.
Faith placed in a negative outcome.
Right. So the goal is to erase those negative mental pictures by deliberately impressing the subconscious with good through faith and affirmations.
She also talked about acting as if, didn't she?
Yes. Similar to Goddard's living in the end, but maybe more focused on outward action too, behaving like the person who already has what they desire.
Like the woman who needed money but acted rich.
That's the one.
Uh-huh.
She acted with the confidence and assurance of wealth, even when she lacked funds, and Shinn says this alignment attracted the money to her.
So sometimes it involves practical steps.
Definitely. Shinn called it digging your ditches, taking actions that show you expect your desire to manifest. Like, buying blankets if you're believing for a new apartment. It signals faith.
Okay. What about handling negativity or obstacles? Shinn had ideas on that too, right? Non-resistance.
Huge point for her. Resistance, fighting against a situation she called hell. It just creates inner turmoil and blocks good.
So non-resistance means?
Accepting the situation, but then blessing it. Actively sending goodwill to it, reframing it. She talked about baptizing it success.
And forgiveness.
Also key. Releasing past mistakes, grudges, resentments. Neutralizing their hold on you. She tells that story about the businessmen and their lucky monkeys.
Right, when their luck changed, she told them to forgive themselves for relying on superstition instead of inner law.
Exactly. And she strongly believed in the power of goodwill and blessing others. Even blessing perceived enemies, she said, creates protection and can transform situations.
What about guidance? How do you know what steps to take?
Intuition. Shinn emphasized listening to your hunches after you've affirmed your desire. Those intuitive nudges are guidance.
Like her smelling Palm Beach.
Yes, that unexpected sensory cue led her to a job opportunity there. It shows how guidance can come in surprising ways. Trusting those flashes is important.
So the divine design communicates through intuition.
That's her view. You ask for it, you affirm it, and then you stay alert for those intuitive leads.
Okay, let's shift to Napoleon Hill. Think and grow rich. What's his angle?
Hill is very much about intense focus. A definite purpose is his starting point for everything. You need absolute clarity on what you want.
And not just clarity, but desire.
Oh, absolutely. A burning desire. He talks about a white heat of desire. It's not a mild preference, it's an obsession almost, coupled with unwavering belief that you will achieve it.
That sounds intense.
It is. He looked at great achievers and saw this pattern.
Yeah.
Clear goal, intense desire, persistent belief.
The story about his son really drives this home, doesn't it?
It's incredibly powerful. His son, born without physical ears, doctors saying he'd likely be deaf and mute.
But Hill refused to accept it.
Completely. He formed this burning desire, this absolute conviction that his son would hear and speak.
And that unwavering belief fueled his actions.
Tirelessly seeking solutions, never giving up. And ultimately, his son did learn to hear, remarkably well actually, and dedicated his life to helping others with hearing loss. It's a profound example of desire overcoming huge obstacles.
Wow. Hill also mentions autosuggestion, right?
Yes, briefly, as the means to plant that definite purpose and burning desire into the subconscious mind. Consistent repetition, positive self-talk.
And he touched on transmuting desire.
He did. The idea that strong emotions, particularly something like sexual energy, could be consciously redirected or transmuted into drive and creativity focused on achieving one's main purpose, it's a deeper aspect of his work.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
Oh, yeah.
Let's try and summarize the core practical techniques someone listening could actually start using.
Good idea. So from Goddard, number one is definitely think from the end.
Feel it real. Live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Exactly. And tied to that, manage your inner speech. Make sure your internal dialogue aligns with your desire.
Consciously choose positive, supportive thoughts.
Then there's Goddard's daily revision. Mentally rewrite unwanted past events.
And falling asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled? Using that receptive pre-sleep state.
Right. Then from Shinn, the power of the spoken word. Use affirmations with faith.
Believing your words shape your reality. And acting as if.
Yes, embody the state you desire. Take actions aligned with it. Dig your ditches.
Practice non-resistance. Don't fight challenges. Bless them. And forgive.
Neutralize negativity from the past and present. And listen to your intuition. Follow those hunches.
Okay, and from Hill.
Cultivate that burning desire, get crystal clear on your definite purpose, and believe in it absolutely.
And use auto-suggestion to consistently reinforce that desire in your subconscious.
So yeah, quite a toolkit there, drawn from these different thinkers.
It really is. And the common thread seems to be that the power lies within us. Our imagination, thoughts, feelings, they're creative.
Absolutely. But the key thing, I think, is that these aren't passive ideas. They're active practices. They require conscious effort and consistency.
Like building a muscle. You have to work at it.
Exactly. So for you listening, maybe don't try to do everything at once. Pick one or two techniques that really resonate.
Yeah, choose something that feels right for you and just start experimenting with it. See what happens.
Consider this deep dive a starting point. It's a fascinating journey, this path of conscious creation, and the original books offer even more depth.
Definitely worth exploring further if this sparks your interest. So maybe a final thought to leave you with.
Go for it.
How consciously are you actually directing your inner world right now? Your thoughts, your feelings, your imagination? And maybe more importantly, what reality will you choose to start imagining and feeling into being starting today?